Welcome to another episode of the Driver's Alert Driving Safety Podcast, where we interview some of the most influential people in driving safety. Our guest today is a good one. We have Steve Sisson. Steve is a certified safety professional who has been in the field of safety for more than 15 years. His credentials include World Safety Organization Certified Safety Executive, Exemplar Global Certified Lead Auditor, Board of Certified Safety Professional Associate, and Certified Safety Professional. Throughout his illustrious career, Steve has held many corporate safety positions, including Site Safety Manager, Regional Director of Safety, and Safety Director. Over the years, he's attended countless training sessions, provided myriad hours of training, and mentored many up-and-coming safety managers. While Steve's passion is focused on creating and sustaining a culture of safety in the workplace, he is also dedicated to leadership development and mentoring others within the safety industry. Steve maintains relationships with safety professionals in many industries and continuously strives to learn best practices and shares experiences to assist others along the safety journey. Currently, Steve is the Chief Strategy Officer at Safety FM, which is a safety services company dedicated to changing safety cultures one broadcast and one podcast at a time, as they say. There, Steve hosts the show Safety Talks, where he discusses all things safety. So, Steve, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks, Rich, for having me.
Steve, let's go ahead and jump right in. So tell us a little bit then about Safety FM. So what precipitated this recent change in your career and transitioning away from corporate safety?
Well, my good friend Jay Allen, and you'll find his bio on safetyfm.com. He has been kind of nudging me for the last, 4 to 6 months, telling me that he started a podcasting business. And just kind of talking to safety professionals, and it finally got to a point where I said, okay, let's make this happen.
So Safety FM then is, it's a podcasting company, but there's a consulting element to it as well. I mean, what is, I guess, the overall mission that you're trying to accomplish?
Well, really the overall mission is just to, talk safety, help people with safety programs, help people with making sure their employees are safe. And we can do that a couple different ways. Jay Allen's got the good podcast for Safety FM, and he talks with a lot of the safety professionals like Todd Conklin and many others. And I've been focusing more on products, really getting products out to the people, because as a corporate safety director, we're inundated with our day-to-day work, but still need to try to find time to look at new products in the field. So, I thought that would be a good segue for me to move into looking at different products, and people can hear the podcast and hear about those products.
So you're reviewing, I guess, many innovative approaches or actual products for improving workplace safety?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And so that, and is there, I guess in your experience, you've done this for 15 plus years, so I imagine that kind of is born out of some of your personal experiences as well as you're going through the process of trying to identify better ways to improve safety in the workplace. And maybe you found a gap, if you will, or some kind of shortcoming where you think, okay, well, this could serve a better purpose if we kind of had a place to go to, a repository where people could hear more about this. I mean, is that kind of similar?
Exactly. That's what we're looking to do, and get everything in one little location where if somebody's looking for an auditing piece of equipment or an auditing system, they can go to Safety FM and they can see the auditing programs that are out there, and they can do a quick listen. Most cases, if you want to get with the salesperson, you got to sit through, a couple sales pitches. Sometimes you got to sit through, a webinar where they demonstrate the product and they're using fake data. Well, at least this is going to give you that opportunity in a short snapshot to see if this company is something you want to invest some time into.
And your particular show is called Safety Talks?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And that's one of many other shows. So there are other programs as well on Safety FM?
Yeah, Safety FM, it's a podcasting and broadcasting system. We also have Safety FM Radio, where you can find on safetyfm.com, where we have about 6 different speakers who we run their podcast at least once a day. So we partner with other podcasting systems or podcasters and put them on our radio.
And I noticed too on your website, it looks like you're live streaming 24/7.
Yeah, that's part of the Safety FM radio. Yes.
Okay. So in your career then, you've been responsible for both fleet safety as well as general workplace compliance safety. Is that
Yes, that
correct?
is correct. Yeah.
I guess one of the questions I have, so in my experience being here at Drivers Alert, um, before this, I'd come from that compliance, OSHA compliance type workplace safety training space. And I did see somewhat of a difference when you go into the fleet safety world, where it seems like sometimes there's a little bit different operating procedure or different way of approaching things. In fleet, they focus a lot on operational metrics, route optimization. Fuel, of course, is the big variable when it comes to expenses. Have you seen that in your career? Is there is there a reason for it, or can you talk a little bit to why there might be kind of a little bit of a separation for how those two entities operate?
Well, I think the DOT part really operates the way it does because it's so highly regulated when it comes to the Department of Transportation and some of the rules that they're required to work under. When you talk about general safety industry, I mean, really, there you got OSHA there, but you tend to have your workforce close to you, so you get to see what they're doing. When you have a fleet, there's sometimes, depending on the size of your fleet or the hours that you guys work, that you just may never see your driver. So you gotta manage them a little bit differently. And you're absolutely correct. It's usually managed off either KPIs, fuel efficiencies, and there's all kinds of technologies to give us statistics, and we manage by statistics when it comes to DOT.
And again, like you mentioned, it's got to be a challenge when you have a workforce that is operating remotely, and so there might not be as much supervision, not as much transparency going on, and so it can be more difficult than if you have something on site there at your location.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that a lot of companies have done to try to, take away that ability, I shouldn't say take away, add to that ability for visibility is put, onboard cameras in so they can see what their drivers are doing, especially when there's an unsafe behavior or something to that effect that triggers a camera to go on. Now that gives a little bit of visibility into the cab for management. And it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's really good for management to work with the drivers on some things that they could do a little bit differently, but at the same time, it's been a struggle throughout the years of driver acceptance.
In terms of in the fleet safety side of it, just to focus on that for a few moments, what is I guess what is a good way to create a strong culture of safety within the fleet? Have you found that there is a kind of one way that works better, or a few approaches that you find really helps build that culture of safety?
One that I found works the best is proper communication with your drivers. And it's not sending notes, posting things. It's actually talking to them and getting to know them and really listening to what they have to say when they come back after a delivery. Let's say if they're delivering food or they're delivering people, whatever it may be, listen to what they have to say because, they're the ones on the front line doing the work. And if you take that extra minute to talk to them, that goes a long way.
So overall, I guess what do you think drives accident reduction? So you're just taking fleet and workplace safety in general, and bringing it together. What builds that culture of a great safety record? Is there a place to start? Is it a process, or is it something that takes a long time to build towards?
Well, I would say it's kind of a combination of all of that. If you really want to reduce your accident rates, you've got to understand where they're coming from first. Where are the accidents? Is it what they would consider low-hanging fruit? Backing into things, hitting fixed objects. How do we work to resolve those? And sometimes it's really easy to do by eliminating the way we have a process. So don't back into this certain area. You won't hit things. But you can't always do that. So, in the trucking industry, backing something that you're going to have to do. So how do you do that safely? So then that's when you get your training programs. I think training is a huge element of that. Giving them the tools to do the job correctly and making sure that they understand it and they can demonstrate it, I think is one of the best ways to do that when it comes to the training side. And of course, there's always different sides of training. You got your knowledge side and your skill side. So you want to give them all the techniques, from the textbook and through learning systems. And then you want to get them out there in the practical application and let them demonstrate it for you. Make sure that they understand how to do it and give them tips if they need a little bit of help.
How important would you say buy-in is from let's say drivers or even frontline workers in the workplace when it comes to trying to adopt a new program, if you will? Obviously, you hear the top-down approach sometimes gets a lot of controversial opinions about just ramming something down the chain of command, but you hear those that are talking more about, let's say, behavior-based type safety programs are focused on trying to build this culture where you get kind of that, like you mentioned, this two-way communication of interaction within the company, so that people feel like they take ownership, I guess, if you will, of their safety.
Yeah, engagement, 100% engagement. If you want to develop a program, you want to have whatever that workforce you're trying to engage it with be part of creating it. If they help create it, the buy-in is almost immediate. I mean, you're going to have your people that aren't going to buy into any programs, but the majority, if you give them the opportunity to help you build it, they are going to buy in and they're really going to work for it. And again, if there's management oversight on that, it also needs to be something that's continued. So if you say every week I'm going to post the winners, you've got to do it every week, because once you skip a week, all of a sudden they're going to back off and just say, you know what, you're not holding up your end of the bargain. Why should we?
Yeah.
You don't want it to be the flavor of the month. If you're going to have a program, it needs to be a program that's sustainable.
Yeah, it's interesting. It made me think about our How's My Driving program. Sometimes you'll have clients that have been a customer for a long period of time, and they come to us and they say, well, we've had a decline in concerned motorists calling in, so we're not getting as many reports anymore, so probably we don't need the product anymore. And I was like, no, it's actually working. I mean, that's the point, because the decal is on the back of the vehicle. Your drivers know that means something, so they're having to drive to their best of their abilities and pay attention. And once you know that you're not going to be following up on those reports anymore, then the drivers start reverting back to some of their normal bad habits. And so it's part of that oversight. Once you know that there's no accountability, then everything changes.
It's funny you say that. In my past, I had ran, large fleets of many different operating companies, and you can tell the ones that actually run the system the way they should, drivers alert, because they had very few calls. The ones that weren't running it very well and pencil whipping some of the descriptions in the system and not talking to the drivers continue to have more and more. And they just wondered why, their numbers weren't going down. And it really became they were not doing their part as a management team.
And so what would you say then, kind of trying to tie that all together, what would be the biggest challenge facing a safety manager then today? Is it culture? I mean, where do you look?
Well, I would say culture is one thing a safety manager needs to work on, but that's not isolated to the safety manager. That's the whole management team. They all need to be engaged in creating that safety culture. One of the other things that I see a lot at different companies is that the safety managers are just extremely overwhelmed. You may be looking over the DOT part. You may also have the OSHA. You may have training under you. You may have environmental. And you throw on all these different hats, something's going to have to give. You can only work so much in a day. And a lot of times the resources just aren't there in personnel or finances.
I'm sure it must be tough too, because in my experience, I know a safety professional is extremely passionate about their profession. So it's got to be tough to deal with that when you're talking about just scarcity of resources and just being overburdened with responsibilities.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a challenge that some handle very well and some don't.
So also in thinking about that culture of safety, and we hear it all the time, and sometimes, you feel it almost gets overused, but what does it really mean? When you hear, okay, we need to build a culture of safety, we need a more proactive culture. I mean, really, what does it mean? I mean, what does that look like? What do I think about when I'm thinking about building a culture of safety?
Well, I think in the most simplest form, it's, doing the right thing when no one's looking. I mean, that's the simplest form. But to broaden on that, a safety culture is something that you can feel. And people think I'm crazy sometimes, but when you walk into an operation, you can feel if there is a safe environment based on the cleanliness, based on how people are acting, the equipment they're wearing, and all of that stuff. But more importantly, safety is only one part of the organizational culture. It's an important part, but so is operational culture, HR culture. I mean, every one of those has got its own separate little niche in culture that it needs to come together as the entirety. So safety culture is used a lot and probably overused. I think organizational culture is probably where we need to move to, and that safety is part of that culture, from start to end.
And it's interesting too, because I hear about this off and on that, when you have that strong safety culture and you're focusing and spending money on the education, you're investing in it, that actually does translate into higher profitability, lower turnover. I mean, there's some, in addition to, of course, just having safer employees and less, lost time from work, there are other beneficial outcomes to the business for having a strong safety program. So it doesn't get emphasized enough, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And when you're investing into your employees, that morale goes up. And it's been proven throughout the years when morale's up, your injuries are down because people are going to trust in their management team that if they can't do something safely, they're not going to get in trouble for going to tell them, we've got to fix this problem. And that is a good positive safety culture when an employee will stop the work to go correct an unsafe behavior. And sometimes they can't correct it themselves. Sometimes they got to go to a supervisor or manager, but at least let them know so that problem can get corrected. A poor safety culture, individual will just go ahead and do the work anyway and let the next guy worry about it.
So I'm sure in your 15 plus years of experience in safety, you have spent some time investigating cases of severe injuries or fatalities.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've been a part of probably a dozen fatalities.
Is there, when you step back and you look at the bigger picture, do you see a common denominator that threads through all of these severe injuries and fatalities where you say, if we'd have done this or that, or what could be, how can we learn from these events? Is there something that kind of stands out?
I would say, I've dealt with fatalities from a driver perspective, from a warehousing perspective. So if you took those individually, yeah, I think if you separated the drivers versus the warehouse, a lot of the times the drivers have to do with hours of service, where there's a fatality for driving, and you look at it and say, well, maybe we shouldn't have put that extra load on. And it's always easy to go back in hindsight and play the we woulda shoulda game. But in many of the cases, it really was something that we shouldn't have done for that driver. And when it comes to warehouse, usually it's not the training. Usually the training's done well. Usually it comes down to somebody exceeding their abilities on a piece of equipment. Deciding they can take a turn too quick and flip a forklift, even though that they've been trained at the proper speeds and stuff. So in most of those cases, on the warehousing side, I don't want to say it's employee. It was caused by the employee. I want to say that there's a lot of things that management could have done at the same time to prevent it.
Okay, let's switch gears here just for a moment. So what is the plan then in the future here for Safety FM? What's on the horizon? Are you looking to add more programs to the podcasting lineup? What's kind of the short and midterm goal?
Well, right now we're building up Safety Talks. Safety FM by Dr. Jay Allen. He's got quite a few followers, and we're building up Safety Talks now. We're going to continue on with these at this point. There is some talks about adding some more programs to the show or to the channel. I can't divulge those right yet because none of them are finalized. And then we're also looking at partnering with some professional organizations to help them and advertise for them and see what we can do to work with them and get more subscribership or whatever to their symposiums or conferences.
Hey, what platforms are you on right now?
We are on Spreaker. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on. You can find Dr. J. Allen on iHeartRadio. and I should be there soon. And usually any of your favorite podcasting systems.
I've listened to a couple too, and I have to commend you. They're very professionally done. So you're off to a good start.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So, we're coming up here on our allotted time. Do you have any additional comments that you'd like to add? Any messages under, something that you'd like to say to our audience, just overall regarding safety?
Well, I can tell you that Safety FM is a program that is here to assist you guys, assist the field. That's what I felt that was lacking in safety, is that they didn't have a general spokesperson. And that's what we're trying to be. Dr. J. Allen's talking to some of the heavy hitters in the safety world. And, I'm talking products, and I want to help, anywhere from the little guy who's coming out with a new product, get some exposure to the heavy hitters of the world, like Drivers Alert. We want to get as much exposure out there for everybody to help everybody out. And that's our ultimate goal. Down the road, we do have our consulting firm, Safety Focused Moments. And that is one of the ones that, we're looking at building as well, but that's a little bit down the line. And we're going to keep pushing ahead on this. And, I'm working with great people like yourself, Rich, and I'm getting people constantly asking me to promote their product now, which is very good.
Oh, that's great. And you said that again, that was Safety Focus Moment?
Yeah, we have designated Safety Focus Moments for our consulting side of the business.
Okay.
And then Safety FM for the podcast, the broadcast, and the product promotion.
Okay, Safety Focus Moments. Okay, good. And as far as your podcast is concerned, are you looking at coming up with a regular schedule? Are you still trying to work that out?
No, we put it up every Thursday.
Every Thursday?
Every Thursday they're going up, and I'm now building that large enough book where I'm going to go on to Safety FM's radio channel, and you can also hear me there. So if any of your listeners want to take a listen, it's safetyfm.com, and it's streaming live constantly.
Okay, safetyfm.com. And is there any other way that you would like to have people contact you or find out more about what you're doing? Or is that good?
You can contact us on safetyfm.com. You can contact me direct at Steve Sisson at safetyfm.com. And I'm more than willing to talk to pretty much anyone.
Okay, Steve, that sounds great. So thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing your insights and experiences. Your experience in the safety industry, I think it can't be understated. It's super impressive. And we need to do more of this, for where we come from with the distracted driving issues, things we're seeing out on the roads, that you just can't spread this message enough about the importance of just taking time to think about what you're doing,
Absolutely. Well, anytime you need me, Rich, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Steve, and good luck in your new endeavor with Safety FM.
Thank you.
Okay. Once again, that was Steve Sisson. He's the Chief Strategy Officer at Safety FM, where he also hosts the podcast Safety Talks, leveraging his 15-plus years of experience in the safety industry to help others make the workplace safer for all. To stay up to date on our latest podcast episodes, please follow the Drivers Alert Driving Safety Podcast page. It's at driversalert.com/driving-safety-podcast. There you will be able to sign up for episode notifications as well as browse our episode archives. And don't forget, the Drivers Alert Driving Safety Podcast is the podcast that features the most influential people in driving safety. Until next time, please drive safely.